Welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast. I'm your host, Art Trapotsis, and this is a podcast where we explore the incredible world of New England endurance sports. And today we're speaking with Mitchell Foley from Conte's Bike Shop here in Lexington, Mass., a legendary cyclist representing a legendary bike shop. How cool is that? This episode is not an advertisement for Conte's, by the way. I have no affiliation with Conte's. I just love what they're doing with the local community. I wanted to share this on the podcast. They've been on my list since we started, so keep listening. I was surprised to learn that although Conte's is new to New England, they've had a long history of improving local communities since 1957, when the first shop opened in Virginia by Charles Conte Sr. And I'm familiar with them from folks doing like the DC ride. But I wasn't aware that they had stuff in Florida and North Carolina and Georgia, 21 shops in total. And out of these 21 shops, I believe Conte's in Lexington, who we're chatting with today, is the number one shop in the company after just 2 years at the location.
Under 2 years. That's
cool. So before we get into Conte's, I'd like to introduce my guest today. We've got the legendary Mitchell Foley in the house.
Good morning, Art. That's really kind of you to say, man. I appreciate it.
He's a former D1 football player turned endurance athlete, a 5-time national cycling champ who was ranked number one Cat 1 rider in the country, 2002, 2003.
Criterium racer. Yeah.
Thank you. We actually on this podcast, we like not to have too many abbreviations because a lot of folks don't understand the jargon. But yeah, cool. Criterium. And he's been involved with a myriad of professions like real estate and coaching and personal training. And he's a businessman as well. He had his own supplements company through Gemini Performance.
Yeah, Gemini Performance.
And he's been in a couple of terrible accidents that have kind of shaped his life in a positive way. He's been sober since 2014. I'm going to sum up your life philosophy as someone who values discipline, resilience, and self-mastery. It's good stuff.
It's great. Yeah,
and now you are in charge of outreach and business development at Conte's, and I want to welcome you to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Art. I appreciate it. It's an honor, actually. I know you've been doing this for a little while now, and I was pretty, I was a little surprised, but pleasantly so that you had wanted to have me on the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Super.
So I'd like to start off just with, let's talk about the football piece. You were a D1 football player?
Yeah.
Like, how did that?
Yeah, University of Maine. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I was a track and field guy in high school, and decathlete, Junior Olympics, and played a little football at a boarding school, which was like a very small program. But because of my track and field sort of stats, I was recruited by a number of D1 schools and decided to take a full ride offer from the University of Maine. And they really taught me how to play. And my last year there, or my junior year, I started getting letters from teams and stuff like that. And just sort of one thing led to the next. And I don't know, just that's how that all happened. And
what position did you play?
I played roaming linebacker.
Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes on the tight end, oftentimes on the weak side, just roaming, kind of like a strong safety up front.
Oh, that's
nice. A little
nice.
Closer, yeah.
I have two boys who are playing high school football right now, and we're sort of into that world a little bit.
Yeah, I had a cup of coffee with the Cincinnati Bengals, and they moved me They actually moved me to the inside, which was sort of interesting because I was much more of a speed athlete. But I think they thought my recognition was pretty good from the inside, and they put me in middle linebacker.
Wait, did you play for the NFL?
I signed a contract with them, and I was there through preseason in 1986.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so,
cool.
I say, I had a cup of coffee with them.
I like that.
Yeah.
So how on earth did you get into endurance sports?
Yeah, so after I was released, I went into real estate in Virginia, and we can bring that back into the Conte's thing a little bit. But I just got really out of shape, and I had grown up as a swimmer and a track athlete, and I just started running 10Ks and stuff like that. And one day I heard about a triathlon regionally called the Reston Triathlon.
Don't tell me you did a triathlon. Wow.
That's how I got into it.
Keep
I'm
going.
like, well, I can swim, and I've been doing 10Ks, so I had a bit of cardio. And I grew up in a rural area. I had a bike, and I knew how to bike, so I was like, I'll give this a shot. And it just sort of turned out that the cycling part of it was just by far and away my strongest event.
Crushed the bike leg?
I crushed the bike leg. I did I set the course record, and I'd only been doing it 3 months. And not that it was a big triathlon or anything. And then this guy who had just graduated from Princeton, and he was a world-class biathlete. They called it, they're duathlons today, but back then they called them biathletes, Phil Panevchek. He lived in Reston, and he saw my time, and he said, dude, come train with me. And he was like my first sort of coach, just like informally. And he really wanted somebody to train with. And so that was my entry into it. And then I started training with Phil, and then started entering some of the group rides and things like that. And
what year was this?
This would be 1990.
Okay.
Yeah, a long time ago. Wow.
I don't know if you know this story, but the first time I met you was at Wells Ave. I doubt you remember this. You had a Specialized with these funky drop bars that were kind of arrow.
Oh, the death rakes.
And I was there for a clinic with Adam Meyerson.
Was it a yellow? It was a yellow Specialized.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was.
And there was like a combined A/B race, and I remember Adam said to me, and I just started racing. He said, "Art, you see that guy right there? His name's Skip Foley. I would like for you to see if you could follow his wheel for just 3 laps. Just try it. Just see what he does."
That's so awesome.
And
I love it.
It was incredibly hard to follow your wheel. Like
Really?
you had this ability to find the gaps.
Yeah.
And I was like, I learned a lot just in those 3 laps trying to follow you. So
Wow.
and then we
cool.
reconnected many years later in the cycling scene. But what was one of your most memorable experiences in your cycling career? Because you're a 5-time national champ, so you must have been all over the country and raced.
Well, most memorable. Gosh, there's been a lot of them. I would say, I guess winning my first nationals, that was a big thing for me. And
was that criterium or the road race?
That was a criterium, because I had tried I've only been 4 times, but I've won a number of I've podiumed pretty much every event I've ever done. I always did time trial. I did the time trial, crit, and road race. Usually top 3 in one of them, but I hadn't won I had been twice before, and I just kept getting beat by Thurlow Rogers, who had just retired from. I think he just retired from Coors Light or 7-Eleven or something like that, and had just been in Europe. And this is back when I was 30, so these guys were. They don't even have that age category. See, these guys were really fast, and I just kept getting second. I had 4 seconds. Then when I finally won, I was like, okay. I just sort of set myself up from that experience. It just kept going with it.
That's incredible. Do you still compete?
I flirt with staying within. I'm 3 weeks away from race form at all times.
Oh, I like that.
But I haven't raced in probably. I did Cat 1 Elite Road Race in just before COVID, so I think that was 2018. I got a double flat. But yeah,
I remember
you
trained super hard that year.
Yeah, I was in pretty good shape. I was in some ways I was in my best sort of. My 2-hour power was probably the highest it's ever been.
What was it back then? Just curious.
2-hour power?
Yeah,
just under 300 watts. You know, yeah, 270.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, for me, I've never been a watt guy really, but that was good for me.
You mentioned always being 3 weeks away from peak condition. My former coach, I'll give him a shout out, named Court Kramer. Maybe you've heard that name before.
Yeah, I know Court. Yeah,
so
sure.
Court said to me, piece of advice many years ago. He said, "Art, I always want my athletes to be 6 weeks away from peak condition.
Yeah,
You need a couple of cycles to get up to it." But that's funny you mentioned that, because that's a good way to kind of live life, I think.
Yeah, striking distance. I'm always right there.
Did you ever think about going pro?
So I was paid by World Team. I got a stipend. I think they paid $500 a month plus all equipment plus travel.
So you were pro. Semi-pro.
Well, yeah, the lines were blurrier back then, so that was, but it was definitely a professional situation, and we made a lot of money actually from winning back in those days. You do Somerville and Nutley and some of Nestle's in these races. You're splitting a couple grand a weekend.
Did you ever do the race in Davis Square, like America's Cup or something?
I did.
What was that like?
I beat Roberto Gaggioli in the sprint in that race.
Who was he racing for at the time?
He was, gosh, I don't know. I can't remember. It was a purple kit.
Didn't he race in Europe?
Gage?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he raced everywhere. He won several U.S. pros and had won Downers Grove a number of times.
I was at Tufts in the mid '90s, and I remember we'd all walk over to Davis Square and watch this race. This is before I got into the cycling scene. I was like, man, this is incredible.
Yeah, I was racing with CCB at that time. We had a really strong team with Sean McCormick and a very young Tim Johnson, Amos Brumble, and a couple of others. We were the number 1 ranked amateur team in the country that year.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I think it was 2001.
You guys were all studs. I remember your names.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good times.
So as you've had to sort of like back off from racing over the years, and we'll get to Conte's in a minute here, but I'm interviewing Mitchell Foley here, people. How has that sort of changed your relationship with cycling as you've sort of had to back out of competition and, ride with the rest of us?
That's a really good question. I think there was a sort of a sequence of things happening when I was sort of backing out. Strava started coming around, and that was, to me, that was super fun. I think people race or they compete for a number of reasons. If you're really good, maybe you can compete for money, for cash, or you compete for recognition. And just the money that was out there for cycling and prize money and things like this really kind of tailed off around the same time that Strava started coming around. And Strava, the recognition there was the
KOM.
The KOM, and it was just sort of fun. And, friends of mine that are on the West Coast and down south and stuff like that could see what I was doing, and I could see what they were doing. So the recognition piece was there. It was really sort of fun. And I just spent some time kind of riding more locally, and the segment hunting for sure. It was super fun. And then also the groups themselves, I think, started to evolve in the communities. And,
absolutely.
And it was sort of like this confluence of events where, the racing, USA Cycling Racing was definitely dovetailing down like big time in the early 2000s. This place was a hotbed of races.
There was 2 races at least every weekend all year long,
within an hour to an hour and a half drive. And it was and you had some of the best racers crit racers in the world living here, going to training races so they could do the crit scene here. And that all has, bye-bye birdie. That's long gone.
And that's a story for another podcast.
It is. But at the same time that was happening, the cycling as a community was exploding.
Yeah.
And I really embraced that. I just love the group rides and, showing up and having 2 or 3 options of, anywhere from 10 to 30 riders.
Yeah, you had rides out of Concord. You had studio rides out of Lexington.
Yeah, Ride Studio was great. They were instrumental too for me, and just a real platform.
And the Rippers started forming and doing their thing in Winchester.
Sure,
we interviewed J.D. Hale a while ago, and
oh yeah, he's a super nice guy. Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
So, do you have a favorite workout that you like to do? Some secret sauce?
No.
Come on. 2x20, some sprints.
I might have to kill you if I tell you, Art. I'm always thinking about it. I'm still now, at this station in life, I'm still looking for an edge.
What can you do to sharpen the sword?
Yeah, I tell you, I've tried I've tried many different approaches to training and to racing and to cycling, and the one thing that I can say for sure is that the cornerstone is consistency, and then crafting, sort of curating a life that style that enables that. And you sort of nip away at the edges of things versus, that are directional changes that if you continually to progress to make them, you find yourself in a really great spot, health-wise and performance-wise. And that's my secret, I would say, is curating the environment and nipping away. And it doesn't take much. I'm actually coming out of a situation where the last few years or post-COVID, I was just not feeling good, not curating my lifestyle. I through choices of my own, just, I don't know. I just let it go a little bit. And it didn't take much over time to look back over, a year and a half and say, oh my gosh, I don't recognize myself. My performance is off. I don't feel good. My training is like, I don't have joy in my training.
Ooh. It's the fine art of balancing work, family, and fitness.
Or just, balancing whatever's happening in your life. And so you have to be super vigilant about that. And then maybe not be so much of not acquiesce all the time to other people and, maybe be a bit selfish, but knowing that you're going to be a better version of yourself, and then what you can give to others in training and as a coach or as an employee or as a partner or whatever, you're giving your best self versus this compromised, broken down version, which is unattractive to everybody, including myself.
Does the infamous Mitchell Foley ever take rest weeks?
I do if I'm tired, but I don't take days off if I'm not tired. But I have the luxury of 35 years of training to know, when I'm training, what to leave in reserve so that I can recover for a similar type workout whenever that happens. So I rarely take a day off, and people will say, well, you need to take a day off. And it's like, I do if I'm tired, but if I can structure my training to where I leave enough in reserve to within 48 hours, then do it again, and then not back to back same muscle groups or same systems.
Yeah. Yep.
You come around, and if your nutrition, I don't like saying optimized because it's so optimized nutrition.
Cliche.
It is, but if your nutrition is on point and the rest is authentically on point, boy, you can recover really, really well. And I just I'm getting up there in age, but I honestly feel in many ways that I've got as much energy as I ever had.
Are you 60 plus yet?
All these questions.
You don't look like it.
Yeah. I'm 62, but I feel great. And that's all recent. Like you said, coming out of a situation where, I'm like, I don't know, what's it been? I don't know, a couple of months anyway.
You've got
I feel like a king again. Like seriously, I feel great. I feel great.
Awesome. So let's segue into Conte's.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit just about Conte's
Super
vibe,
cool.
culture, mission? Like, what's going on at Conte's Bike Shop?
Conte's, gosh, can we backtrack a little bit?
Sure.
And add some background on this? So I cut my teeth racing and cycling in Northern Virginia, and with Phil Penedvec, the guy from Princeton and stuff. And the first bicycle race I ever did was a Conte's bike race somewhere in Southern Virginia. I think it was Richmond or something like that. And I remember they sponsored a junior team and all that sort of thing. And they weren't up in metropolitan D.C. I was in Northern Virginia, just outside of D.C. And I don't think they didn't have a shop there yet, but they were definitely down in the South and a big name in the cycling community. So, but after I moved to New England and stuff like that, I hadn't heard the name Conte's until they moved to Lexington.
Yep.
And I was like, wait a minute. So
that was just a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was literally, I started working there a year ago, September 1st. So basically almost exactly
2023,
a year.
yeah.
Yeah, and I had been, so they had started some group rides, and I was always keen for that. And I just, they weren't really big or anything like that. And I just kind of started attending those rides, and I got to know some of the guys. And I had reached out to Wes, who is the manager then and still is, about my supplement. Would they be interested in carrying the product?
The Bio 5-in-1?
The Bio 5-in-1.
Yep.
And it was just too early on. I don't think they had even opened up yet. But that's how I made the initial connection.
Nice.
And from there, I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but I think Jay Sparks.
Shout out to Jay.
Yeah, shout out to you, Jay, if you're listening. Started talking to me about Conte's and the growth of it, and I hadn't really thought or seen them in at least 25 years. But when I heard about their expansion up here, conversations started, and some of the leadership actually reached out to me.
It seems like they have a mission that is about incorporating themselves into the local cycling community.
Yeah. So that's, and I think that's part of the thing that I think attracted them to a guy like myself, and that was my station in the community. I was doing all the group rides. I was active on Strava. Humbly, I have enough background to sort of not just be a guy that's sort of showing up. I feel like I'm a bit of a leader in the area in terms of
absolutely
understanding what So all of that.
But Conte's as a shop had some big shoes to fill with Ride Studio Cafe leaving.
Absolutely, Ride Studio did such a great job and had such a great brand, and they were so passionate, and man, they were missed. I mean, really, drop a tear, miss,
So when Conte's came in, just personally, I was thinking, is this some sort of corporate bike shop coming in, and it's going to feel, not very authentic, but it feels extremely authentic and organic. Do you agree?
I do. And I think that has a lot to do with just the team of people that we've put together in the last couple of years. There's been some turnover, but I think a lot of that is maybe just growth, and then, just having this, like you say, this culture that's focused on sort of hyper local presence, and by presence, really meet as much of the needs as we can, and people ride bikes to have fun. So in some ways, if you don't have a shop ride that's run well, that's well attended, that's organized, that's safe, that's friendly, that's kind to its participating riders, you're missing a huge opportunity, and then also forgetting what we're doing this all for. And at the end of the day, it's just bikes, but in that it's bikes. So it's like that's important.
Well, and this is the essence of this conversation. So I see Conte's engaging with the local community through this incredible Sunday group ride that they're doing. And it's not just one group ride. I wanted to break down this day with you. So it starts at 9 a.m. on Sundays.
I get there around 8:30.
Okay.
And I open the shop. So we make the place available for the bathrooms, the changing rooms, quick. I don't want to say mechanical repairs, but if people need air in their tire,
top off the tires,
that sort of thing. So it starts with that, and then people start trickling in around 20 of, quarter of, and all the first ride leaves at 9, pointy sharp, pretty much.
And let's talk about that.
Sure.
So when I show up there appears to be at least 4 or 5 different groups forming.
Yeah, we have
and what
4
are those
groups.
What are the paces?
So we have. Let's go from the base up. The C ride typically goes 34 miles on a 34-mile loop with, I don't know, we probably have half a dozen to a dozen riders in that group, depending on the day, with a ride leader, and they'll average, 16 to 18 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Then we have the B group, probably twice that size, around 20, sometimes 20, 30 riders. Sometimes we've had 40 where we have to divide the B group into 2. Yep. And they do the same loop, and their average speed is 19 to 20, that sort of range. And these are no drop rides. So the group will wait if someone tails off the back.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we have the A group, which is probably our biggest group. And they
not the fastest group.
It's not the fastest, but they're pretty fast. So the A group does just under 50 miles, and they'll go around 22 to, I think they've been in just under 24 on that 50-mile loop.
And sometimes there's an A and an A plus.
Yeah, well, the A group gets really big. We've had as many as 40 or so there, and we divide that into two as well.
Yeah.
Two different groups with two different leaders. And that is supposedly a no-drop ride as well. But it's fast enough to where if people drop off, you're not looking back, and no one's really waiting. But it's not. And and by the way, none of these rides are racy race. They're intended to be paced rides. So going whatever the power is or whatever the speed, whatever the power is, going up a hill should be the same as going down the hill.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the one exception to that is the S group, stands for spicy group.
Caliente.
Caliente. It's giddy up. No, you really got to buckle down for that one. That is a drop ride. And I think the KOM on that course is 26.1 miles an hour for almost 50 miles. It's not flat. It's not challenging climbing, but it's
rolling.
It's rolling, and some of the hills you come into them after like an elbow U-turn. So you're putting down 800 watts coming out of that to keep pace.
Yeah.
And it's solid. We've had some of the top U.S. pros show up, and a couple that regularly show up, and it's a tough ride. It's a tough one.
So thank you for describing those rides. I love. I think I've done all the rides. Haven't made it to the end on an S ride, but
it's tough.
Hopping into the C ride. It's a great beginner ride. It's a great. It could also just be.
That's my favorite one to do, actually.
Yeah, everyone's social. Yeah, you learn how to maybe pace line a little bit.
Yep.
If there was someone new to cycling and was interested in doing a group ride, what would you tell them?
I would invite them out to come out and do the C ride with us.
Start there. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do they sign up? Where would they find this information?
ConteBikes.com. Go to events, and then I select a ride near you. It'll find your location and tell you that there are group rides in Lexington with Map My Ride links to tell you where the courses are. There is no sign up or anything like that. Everyone's welcome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's the affiliation with this local cycling group called B2C2? I see that they're leading some of the rides.
Yeah, B2C2. They've been great. Todd and Stephanie have been really nice to work with and good to work with. They're a well-established club. I think they started in Back Bay, but primarily they're kind of Medford, Somerville area, mostly young guys, young folks, girls and guys.
I thought they've done a great job with leading these rides, the ones that I've been on.
Yeah. They provide leaders for each of the groups and are very consistent with that and very prepared. They do a great job in the narrative before the ride around, what the intention of the ride is and how we should be looking out for each other and what to look out for and that sort of stuff. And they do a great job keeping each of the groups on pace.
That's great. Shout out to B2C2 there.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Controversial question here. What are your thoughts on e-bikes for group rides, like the Conte's rides?
So I think they're great, honestly. I feel like it's progression. Let me back up. I understand why people that don't like it, where they're coming from. To some extent. The thing to me is e-bikes give people access to things they otherwise wouldn't have access to.
Definitely.
And it's a bicycle. Yes, there's an assist. But the e-bikes that I've seen on our rides have been, the riders have been so responsible, in my view, from what I've seen. And I've been on a number of the group rides with the e-bikes, and for the most part, they're very well paced. They're good riders, And that's an important point, because it's really more about if you're on an e-bike, do you know how to ride your bike?
Yes.
That's the most important thing. Because if you know how to ride your bike, it doesn't matter if you're on an e-bike or if you're on a unicycle. You know what I mean? Like you know how to handle. It's about safety. There have been some issues with e-bike, and I need to acknowledge that I think some of it is ego opposition, and some of it is really not having an understanding about safety. I feel like if a rider can be on just a regular bicycle and not know how to navigate through a pack, and be far more dangerous than someone on an e-bike.
Yeah.
And I would speak with any e-bike rider on any of our rides if they didn't have any skills, to say, hey, listen, we just can't have. But I would say that to them if they were on a regular bike.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
so my thoughts on e-bike. I read this article a couple of years ago. Maybe it was more than that. Leonard Zinn.
Yeah.
He had some health issues, some heart issues.
Yeah, I remember.
He couldn't hang with the group. It was my understanding he was upset about that, and he wanted to find a way to be with his passion. So he got on an e-bike.
Yeah.
And he did this, this Colorado Saturday ride, which is hilly. And he was so happy because he kept his heart rate where he needed to, which was like under 135 or something.
Yes.
And it allowed him to participate. So at that level, I'm cool with it. I'm also cool with it just if you don't have a health issue, but just be aware of the chi of the ride. Be aware of like the, hey guys, we're doing 16, 18 here. Don't pull at 28 on your e-bike.
Right. And I've never seen that.
I haven't seen that either.
Not even close to anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm in your camp that I do welcome e-bikers, if that's what we call them, and gets more people into the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps keeps lots of people for different reasons in the sport, and then showing up at the group rides.
We might be on an e-bike someday.
I hope so. I hope so.
We might be riding out to Harvard, Mass at 28 miles an hour.
So I've sold a number of e-bikes to older guys with knee issues or hip impingements or just some sort of injury. They just want to ride their bikes with friends and be social and still move along and still get that tactile, visceral response of speed.
The endorphin rush too.
Yes, yes, and I think I fully embrace them actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place to ride or a favorite route in New England you can share with us, our millions of listeners?
I have, and I think I have probably a handful, and some of them are season related.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where on a hot, steamy night where the sun sets over the Hanscom airfield.
Yeah.
It's, you see this big tangerine sun, and it's steamy hot, and you're coming off the Mystery Gear Hill. It's just absolutely beautiful.
This is in Bedford, Mass, by the way.
Bedford, Mass. Yeah. Moments like that, and then in the fall going through Great Brook and the Cranberry Bog. That's the beauty of New England, is you have these scenic places that change with the season. They look completely different.
One of my favorite spots, which I'm looking forward to do in October, is we park our cars at the Hampton Beach State Park.
Oh, yeah.
And we ride the Seacoast up to Nubble Lighthouse in Maine and back. It's about 70, 80 miles, but it's just, it feels completely different than being there in summertime.
I look forward to going past Walden Pond in the fall.
Oh,
when the trees are golden and they're red and they're, the foliage, and it's just gorgeous. And you look down on Walden Pond. It's clear enough to be able to see.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're like, wow, where am I? Which is, and in the summer, it's nothing. It's just green and hot.
Do you have a favorite event or race that you used to do or that might still be going on that you could share with folks? We like to ask folks about hidden gems in New England.
Conte's Bike Shop. Conte's Bike Shop, Sunday Shop Ride.
Sunday Shop Ride. There you go. As far as I'm concerned, that is still a hidden gem.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Still after all these years.
So I'd like to ask folks who've cycled and trained all over the country like yourself, why do you think New England is the greatest region of the country for endurance sports?
Secondary roads, I think, are a big part of why cycling endurance is so great here. You know, we are in Arlington, Mass, for instance, right now, and I live in Concord. So I can go home, I don't know, maybe a dozen different ways and be within 1-2 miles of each other in total distance. That's phenomenal.
That is a great answer. We haven't heard that one yet, but you're right. Like, no matter where you are in New England, there are all these incredible secondary roads.
Yes.
In Vermont, they're mostly gravel.
Yep.
People love that. But you're 100% right, because when you're out, let's say in California, you feel like you're more on these
main arteries.
Yeah.
And it's always the same. It's good. But it's always the same.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, that would be for endurance sports and for cycling, and then, you know, same sort of thing for running. But I also think that one of the things that makes a great endurance athlete is grit.
Yes,
and it doesn't get any grittier than New England in terms of weather, in terms of just, I don't know, toughness or something like that. And I think that
couldn't agree more.
I think that has a role. You know, I have friends that are good cyclists or whatever, and good endurance athletes, and Seattle's similar like that, gritty, and they have a very good culture for endurance there, more so than people might know. California, like it's the obvious, you know, everything. The weather's always good, and the guys, you know, if it's raining, they typically won't go in the rain and that sort of thing.
Well, we just got back from the New England Tour de Cure New England ride out of Lexington for diabetes on Sunday. I think 180 people showed up riding in the pouring rain for literally like 3 to 5 hours.
Yeah. It's so cathartic. It's when the weather's warm to ride in the rain. It's just great.
That's
you know,
awesome.
you find reasons to get out there and it's an outdoor sport. Yeah. And New England has the best outdoors, hands down.
Is there anything else you'd like to mention about Conte's or plug today before we go?
I would say to you that our goals and our missions are to connect with the hyper-local scene. Our goals are to open a second, potentially third shop in the near future. Yeah. And we've proven that, you know, what we're doing at Lexington works. The obvious response to that is, oh, well, Lexington, you know, it's affluent. And, of course, how do you fail in Lexington? Well, we've done more than just succeed. We've become the #1 shop in the company in less than a year and a half.
How did you do that?
Hard work, man. Really hard work and caring and having the right team. And when I say hard work, it's like a lot to learn. It was really one of the most, stretching things I've ever done cognitively for myself in terms of, like, I've never been in retail. Yeah. I've never had to know so many different things about.
And I was surprised to see you in retail.
Yeah, I just, but it's bikes.
But you're doing a great job, yeah.
Doing okay, but learning all these different things, and then caring, having the team to be able to stay engaged with customers, and then also with the products. We have a very broad selection, from kids bikes all the way up to $20,000 race bikes. We have everything. We've got a great service team. We've got a state-of-the-art fit studio with the 360-degree motion capture retool system.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Yeah, and we do a ton of fits. We do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of community games and things like that. So it's I think that's what separates us at this point. Like even in our other shops, we have shops that do really, really well and that have been at the top of their markets. Like, we're in Arlington, Virginia. We're in Alexandria, Virginia. These are high net worth communities, probably higher than Lexington, I would say. But yet we've outpaced them.
That's incredible.
So I think, so it's not like, wow, okay, you're Lexington, how do you fail?
I've had nothing but a good experience. Going in there, it just feels like it's a good vibe and everyone's so welcoming, and
for sure.
It's a great spot.
Well, we like seeing you guys come in.
So Mitchell Foley, thank you thank you so much for being on the New England Endurance Podcast.
It's my pleasure, Art. Thanks for having me.
It was great to have you sharing your journey as an athlete and the Conte's mission. I think Conte's is an awesome fit for the area. I'm glad they found a home in Lexington. And for those who want to learn more about Conte's, go to contesbikes.com. We will also tag a bunch of the things we discussed today in our Instagram page called at New England Endurance. And we like to thank our sponsors who powered this podcast, including Lark Fine Foods, a 100% women-owned specialty food company baking delicious small batch cookies, The Everyday Athlete, a book about balancing work, family, and fitness, and Kinetic, experience the brain-boosting benefits of ketones. So until next time, get out there, rain or shine.
Yeah, roll strong, be kind.
Roll strong, be kind. I love that. Explore the beautiful terrain of New England.